Hey everybody, Jay Barino here, welcome back. We're playing StarCraft 2, it's the weekly mutation, joined by Subsaurian.
Hello, hello.
Hello. The Quick and the Undead.
Speed Freaks and Void Reanimators. It's going to be a little annoying.
Wasn't there one called the Quick and the Dead as well? I wonder if the mutators were similar.
Yeah, there's the Quick and the something. I know because when I updated, or when I changed on the wiki, I'm like, wait, this sounds really familiar, but it's definitely different.
Yeah. So, Speed Freaks is Speed Freaks. I mean, I guess it's just more anticipating the enemy attacks, because there's no way you're going to be able to move back and forth quickly.
Yeah, there's a pretty considerable distance, because this is Scythe of Amon, so
Yeah.
like we aren't going to be too caught by surprise, but we're still going to have to readjust pretty quick.
I see that you're on Tychus.
Yeah, I was thinking either Tychus or Han and Horner. Tychus is just what I had before.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it might be good to have someone who's mildly defensive, because inevitably Void Reanimators are gonna pop up.
Yeah, that could. Yeah,
And
I was hoping.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was hoping Tychus could kind of be a hunter for Void Reanimators because of Medivacs, but
Exactly. I think Tychus is definitely worthwhile here. I'm trying to think of who else, like, Artanis could be pretty good. Number one, so that you don't accidentally, just to make sure that you don't lose anybody, but also because then I can warp in anywhere and just go and Zealot Dragoon, and that's it.
Yeah, that'd be a good benefit. Stepman might not be bad here because you get vision of everywhere, and Void Reanimators can't sneak up on you then.
That's true. I mean, I was about to say we should skip the bonus, but honestly, doing the bonus wipes out parts of the map where the Reanimators would spawn from. So maybe...
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. The enemies aren't actually, increased in power level at all, so that shouldn't be too hard.
Exactly. That's why I think just a little bit of defense should be okay. It depends on where the Reanimators spawn from and, if they will come in and, reanimate the pre-placed hybrid and shit like that.
Yeah, and I think they just reanimate anything that's killed, so...
Yeah.
Which will be a bit of a pain. But...
I think I'm going to go Artanis just because we can use Solar on the second shard, which pretty much it kills it by itself, so that's fast expansions.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
And being able to warp in pretty much anywhere.
Solar is good. I was also thinking Manx because I know his nukes will just wipe out any shard.
Oh, it does. I didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know. I was actually thinking Manx myself because he's fun, but...
Yeah, I've heard once you take the first expansion, or the expansion, you can set up Earth Splitters and they'll have vision. I think they'll hit anything, but I haven't tried it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Manx is fun.
I enjoy him a lot. Sending many troopers to their doom.
I feel kind of bad because, I like saying, oh, I really like Tychus and I really like Manx and I kind of like Stetman, which are all the newer commanders, but I feel bad because, the earlier commanders were still fun. It's just because they were out for so much longer, maybe I don't consider them in, my top picks.
They're not as engaging. Raynor and Artanis, Vorazun are they're very basic. They don't have any, sexy, exciting abilities, or twists to them, really.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have different tech trees, obviously. They look different, but to a degree, they play very similarly. And it wasn't until maybe Abathur or Alarak.
Yeah, I'd say Abathur. No, I'd say Alarak.
Yeah.
Karax is pretty weird, but...
Karax is weird. I would say Alarak is more like the original commanders than Abathur, just because Abathur has, a thing to do. But then after that, all the commanders had, distinct play styles. So, like you said, Raynor and Vorazun, well, obviously very different commanders, play very similarly in many ways. Whereas, you couldn't say that about Zeratul.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Stetman.
And it's actually been, they had mentioned it's been an issue as to why, commanders have taken longer, is because there's, now an expectation of wilder and wilder concepts.
Yeah.
It's also why I know a lot of people have been wanting Tosh, but I suspect why we haven't seen him yet, because it's kind of hard to do a weird twist that hasn't been done.
Yes. Yeah. You could do, a Zeratul-type commander with Tosh.
Yeah,
where he's always cloaked, and it's kind of like some sort of sneaky mini game you could do. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been replaying Wings of Liberty for the 10th anniversary, and his level there's some cool things you could do with this.
Mm-hmm. I think really what it comes down to is they could probably start with an interesting gameplay idea and then make it fit to any character they needed to, in some way.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they did with Stetman. Although his was more, we have a cool skin set, an idea, we need a character.
Yeah.
I know usually they say the lore informs the character, but I'm hoping, like, I mean, the gameplay's what lasts. Like, I would have never wanted Stepman, but now I like him.
That's a good way to put it. Oh, and I mean, you and I have been talking about it, but obviously we haven't talked about it in a video. This big PTR patch.
Yeah, 10th anniversary's coming up. It's looking like it's gonna be like we'll see. They're completely redoing the editor, like with a lot of Warcraft 3 features.
Yeah, they're making it. There's like an easy mode. I haven't tried it myself, but like apparently it's supposed to be a lot more like the world editor in the sense of like data editing and not being as confusing. So anybody who's been intrigued, maybe you should dive into the PTR and check it out.
Curious how map-to-map loading is gonna like really impact. Like if we'll see a lot more in the way of campaigns. I say that because I've been struggling to install Mass Recall. And I just want it on the arcade.
Well, the bigger issue with that is it's too big. It won't fit.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, I'm sure that they would just need extra accounts, but that's, at the end of the day, probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's true. And 15 levels of cliffs, that's... I really...
Right.
I'll start watching esports again if there's a map that uses all 15 levels.
Well, regarding the... Regarding, like, the campaigns, I think a big... Who did we get? Oh, vultures.
It's a little annoying.
Especially with speed freaks.
Yeah. Though, thankfully, it seems like we can wipe them out before they plant spider mines, because that's really annoying.
Yes. Regarding the campaigns...
Oh, God. I forgot reanimators.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
That was very fast. I got him.
I am shielding our forces now.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't expect that quickly.
Yeah, I didn't think the reanimators would show up that early. But yes, a big part with the campaigns on the arcade is going to be, who participates. A lot of campaign creators have just faded away, and they're not around to upload their campaigns onto the arcade.
It's a shame, and I hate the negative outlook of it, but a lot of people are saying, yeah, this would have been nice a long time ago.
Yeah.
Which is true. Like, StarCraft's not a new game, but...
I mean, I think what it really comes down to is it's the 10th anniversary. I think, to me, I don't know for sure, but my reading of what happened is that the publisher said, it's your 10th anniversary, here's a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And it's not like they didn't have that before to have done this stuff. It's not like they're like, oh, let's add this now for an arbitrary reason. They always wanted to, but they couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah, Robert Scudder, or I'm sorry, Brian Scudder, like the main editor guy, I know is a big arcade guy, so I'm sure certain these are things he's wanted.
Yep. I'm actually going to push the second shard and drop Solar, and then...
Okay.
Unless you need my help up there.
No, I should be good.
Your mineral reserves are insufficient.
These are, thankfully, fairly normal.
Research complete. Your ally requires your aid.
We got another void reanimator.
Forces have suffered great loss.
Your
Oh,
ally has
no
engaged
Guardian
the
Shell.
enemy.
So that should kill the shard.
Yeah, that got it.
Annihilated. Good.
Cool.
You have not enough minerals.
The nice part, thankfully, of the void, seemingly anyway, with the void reanimators, is they seem to run at your base really quickly. So
Yes, that is definitely a positive. All right, let's clear this out, and I think we want to clear this out too.
yeah, that would make sense. That
And
way we
then-
just have a bit more mobility.
Yeah, there's a reanimator right there.
And they do not look too happy.
Major frame rate.
People of this world have been trapped here since
Okay, these Phoenix can fuck right off.
If you can help defend the ship when it leaves, I will not forget it. Be on your guard. The evacuation ship is underway.
Your ally has entered the fray. Stand as one.
I need to. All right, yeah, we'll push here, and then we should clear the expansion so we
Yep.
can actually expand.
Yeah.
Your ally has engaged the enemy.
Oh, what? What?
Oh,
Oh,
wait, what?
there's a reanimator there. Oh, because there's a pile. It spawned from the pylon.
Ah!
That's bad luck. That's just real bad luck.
Try to send another soon.
I think we can. Thankfully, Phoenixes don't bug me that much. So, God, these are coming quick.
Entered the fray.
Yes.
Stand as one. Your research
Are we too far behind?
No,
I'd be-
no, we're good.
okay, I was gonna say I'd be okay
Your ally
just
requires
starting
your
again if we needed to.
I'm okay. I'm a little behind on upgrades, but nothing.
Enemies sniffed out our base. Let's make them regret it.
Your ally requires
I've got an
your aid.
attack coming from the right.
Oh.
I don't.
Okay, I got that's cleared out. I'll race. Okay, it's up. I can get a Vector up.
And then we need to clear this out too.
Yes. Push him away. Oh, I need to get rid of that pylon.
Your ally has engaged the enemy. Have not enough
I'm
minerals.
sad that they killed the ship.
Your ally has
Again, it was because of that single pylon. So oh well.
I thought I'd gotten it. Oops. Nope. There they come again. I wonder if because I think they spawn from structure.
Yes.
Like from structures.
Yes. That's
There
why I was
aren't
saying going for
too many
the
on
bonus
that.
just to stop them from spawning.
Yeah.
Your
I'm just curious if the void shards themselves counted. Because otherwise, there's actually not too much on this map.
There's just that one base in the upper right, which is really it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that pylon so we don't get any surprises that way.
Your ally has
Oh,
entered the
already got
fray.
surprises this way.
Stand as
Yep.
one.
Well, I'm gonna leave my units down here because I have no way to move them quickly.
You have no
All good.
I have
Oh, come on.
Your harvester.
I have solar up again.
Oh, you're 3 grenade Tychus.
Your mineral reserves are insufficient.
Ah, I left a gateway.
That's the only thing about this map is like having to be so thorough, especially for the bonus. But it makes it specifically noticeable on this map.
Yes. That it is. Oh, got some phoenixes just hanging about. Okay, alright, that's not too bad.
Reserves are insufficient.
Not too bad. What? It's been awful.
Oh, we're not dead yet. that's my standard of not too bad.
True.
I am the eternal optimist. What I shouldn't be.
I can use solar on something. I mean, yeah, if we just say screw the bonus at this point.
Yeah, I mean we should probably clear it, but
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. We should just
Like-
clear it.
yeah. But the solar I think you should save for the objectives themselves. 'Cause I think you can get all of them with solar. If
Well,
I'm
they,
not-
they gain more HP each time attack coming from
Yeah.
the upper. I mean, I could also use them on attack waves.
That's true. I'll just clear this out then. I've got a nuke up.
Requires your aid.
The evacuation ship
I can
is
clear this
ready
normally.
to resume its
I'm actually going to solar this attack wave because it's huge.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh right. Yeah, it's one of those.
The evacuation vessel is moving forward. I pray it remains safe.
Alright, I'm gonna fall back. Get rid of that. Oof.
Engage the enemy.
Oh, and a reanimator.
Yep. Yeah, Tychus is very good on this. Artanis, I feel like not as much.
I think you need someone with a little more like straight mobility.
Do not let this transgression. Your ally requires your aid.
Okay, where the heck is this?
Oh, and then yeah, I see.
All right. Yeah. I'm thinking. Do you want to restart? So I'm getting a little overwhelmed. Actually, I'm not too bad, but
It's yeah, I can't really decide.
I'm okay with either.
Honestly, it might be worth just having a commander who can build defense. Like you don't need a lot of it.
Inaccessible. That location is invalid.
No, yeah, definitely don't.
The hybrid has drawn most of the power from the
Let's push.
Let's just try. Yeah, let's just try. If we don't win, then we don't win.
I return to serve.
Alright, I'll use my nuke.
Your ally has engaged the enemy.
Very nice. Getting like massive drops in frames.
I am too, yeah. Your base is under.
Yeah, well, that's where I think it's going to be about just having defense.
Each fell void sliver gives
I mean, the sliver's already gone, so now we just fall back and...
Yep. Can just warp. If you take that, I'll get this attack. Oh, that's battle cruisers.
make your preparations.
That's why mass goons should be okay if I can get my upgrades out.
Requires your aid.
The evacuation ship is heading out. Keep watch over it.
Oh, thank God for that guardian shell.
Files your base. Slay them.
Did we get another shuttle?
Ally has engaged the enemy.
We have one last one.
I thought it only spawned twice.
I think it spawns once for every bonus, or
Okay.
every, like, point. Pretty sure. I could be wrong. Alright, I'm gonna clear this out.
I just can't afford to continue bothering with these. I guess if you go up the right and I go up the left, we should cut off the things along the way,
Ally requires
Yeah, yeah.
and then we meet at the top in the middle, and I can solar in 30 seconds.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I think solar would be, I think between that and our push, we should be able to
Your
take it
ally
pretty
has
easy.
entered the fray. Stand as one.
But we're having a nice conversation up until everything went to 11.
I know, right? Jeez.
You have
Oh, the Theron Sirius turrets is so good here. Just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stop the endless torrent.
All right, I'm moving into.
Yep,
Solar.
I'm coming up too.
I didn't get it right on the shard, but
That's all right. It has a bit of a spread, so I don't think it'll.
well, it's just to clear this out to let us get to the shard.
Yeah, yeah.
slay them. You have not enough minerals. Put your harvesters to work.
Yeah, only one
There
left.
we go.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah. First, well, don't want to jinx it, but
Right.
hopefully first try.
The enemy is coming for us. Templar, ready your blades.
Man, I feel like Dragoon DPS is so much worse than I remember. I remember people being like really adamant about Dragoons being really good now, but
Yeah, they're, I guess, for their durability, and they've got these alright burst damage, but yeah, they're not the best in the world.
Your mineral reserves are insufficient.
Oh, I'm out of mind controls. Darn.
Make use of this surge in potential. Your ally has entered the fray.
I love Vega. She's probably my favorite. I think a lot of people they
Oh,
sleep
Vega's super fun.
they sleep on her a little bit. But, oh my god, they respawn the interceptors.
Wait, what? What?
Since when?
Powerful.
That's new.
That's funny. Because I didn't think interceptors counted as even selectable units, even by the enemy.
You have
No, I mean you can target them, but in terms of right clicking, but
Yeah, they're buildable. I've never seen them reanimated. Maybe they've always been able to be, and I just never knew.
defend them.
first time for everything,
Your
yeah.
ally requires your aid. Your mineral reserves are insufficient.
And now you can mind control ultras, so they're not Vega's not awful against Zerg. Alright, I've got Odin in 20.
Okay.
You have not enough minerals.
I don't know if we want
Your
to
harvester.
hold
Your
up.
ally has engaged the enemy.
We have 7 minutes, so we have lots and lots of time.
That's true.
Like, we could wait for Solar and Odin, but I don't think we
Yeah.
would need to.
Okay, Odin's up if we want to.
Your ally requires your aid.
I'll.
It's just stuff is being reanimated from the upper area and killing all my workers at the expansion.
Oh.
It's fine. I mean, I'm getting money as long as I'm getting some income out of it. Oh, you just. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize we were good to go.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Oh, now Vega, I don't know, and I think she used to not be able to do it, but now she can mind control the void units.
Oh, nice.
So good now.
I thought you were gonna say interceptors.
No, God. I should test that because apparently they count as units.
I like how we both, at different times, went through a let's restart phase.
Yes. after I had like I think there was 3 at once, and I popped Tychus shields. I'm like, oh, maybe this is getting a little much. But
Void Reanimators are certainly interesting.
It's an annoying one, and it's not like one of those where I think it's unfair, but it can be frustrating, and I think this one will be frustrating for people.
Yeah.
My thoughts on Han and Horner probably are not going to be as good because of how the wide area they have to spawn, but that's my usual go-to against them.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's very mobile and easy to pick things off for sure.
Yeah, but that wasn't... It was stressful, certainly, but not too bad.
Yeah.
But, next week we got... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What was next week?
Oh, I was just saying, next week we got a big 10th anniversary one that looks nice and fancy and really easy. So
Yeah. So regarding the 10th anniversary thing, well, okay, so let me just start with this. So usually you and I, either before or after the mutation, we end up like hanging out and talking for a while. So I thought we can just keep it rolling and talk a bit about this patch and what we think it might happen.
Sure, yeah.
Then people can start the video and be like, oh gosh, they lost so many times and they had to restart.
Hour and a half? This isn't that hard.
But regarding the 10th anniversary patch, the first thing that I would say is, so the PTR that came out was strictly for editor updates, which is huge, but keep in mind that's only one piece of it, and the 10th anniversary is next week. So I don't know what'll be in there, but I'm excited to see there's probably going to be more than just the editor stuff.
Yeah, and they did stress Mapster when they were trying to bring in a bunch of community creators that they only made a PTR for this because they didn't want to launch and have everyone's maps break. And from like the response, because I've been watching the map makers kind of post their stuff, it seems like it's going pretty smooth. No major breaks that I've seen, but just as a casual viewer, so that's good to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems exciting. I mean, this is the biggest patch the editor's gotten in history, and this is just the editor stuff. So I'm excited.
Well, and for anybody who's saying too little, too late, it's kind of like no matter what they did would be too late. It's a 10-year-old game.
It's also like, I mean, what do you expect them to do? Like
yes, like I'm happy for what we're getting. I see it as a positive thing. It's there's no point in looking back and saying it should have been this way, because at this point it's people who like the game, and I think it's great. I'm not even really thinking about it in terms of like new people, though. I do think we're going to be way more open to bring in like Warcraft 3 Reforged refugees at this point.
So the weird thing, and this has been stuff that's been data mined, because I have no clue what it means, is there's like, and I think it's test data, but like full stuff for co-op commanders with like 4 Warcraft heroes. And it's not like, this is a separate mode. It's not like we're going to get them in co-op. But it's like, it's just this weird prototype that's in the current PTR. Nobody knows what it means. So
I mean, that it might be something for the 10th anniversary. I mean, who knows? I don't want to get my hopes too high, because frankly, they've already surpassed my expectations with the editor updates. So for me to now be like, oh, there better be 2 new commanders as well, like that would be crazy. Like honestly, the editor update by itself is enough. So it's just to kind of think about the possibilities is exciting, though.
Don't expect mission packs. I know there's going to be one person like, oh, it's going to be a mission pack. I'd love it. If I eat these words next week, like, please call me out on it. But like the amount of effort they put into those, like, there's no way they could just slip that under the radar.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Nova took forever for 9 missions.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's an older game, so temper your expectations for what you're going to get. And the fact that we got these editor updates is huge. Like, that's massive for the age of the game. And I mean, but I also don't want to be doom and gloom and be like, oh, poor StarCraft 2. It's old. It's never going to get any updates. It's done. It's dead. But it's not. Like, there's a solid fan base for it. We all enjoy still playing it, and a lot of us enjoy watching it, too. So I'm happy to just see it.
Yeah, and there's an active development community. I mean, it's obviously not huge, but they're making stuff. Like, the co-op team's still there and churning things out, and pretty vocal, honestly, for a Blizzard development team anyway. So
exactly, and there's a lot of communities. I mean, they're not really connected, but there's a big co-op community. There's obviously my community. There's the BattleNet forums, which I guess you can consider those however you want. But the Mapster community, the esports community, like they're all still, they still bring in a lot of people.
They do, yeah. Plug for the lore community. No, but yeah, no, I'm we'll see what comes. It's hard to speculate too much because I've heard everything from we're getting nothing, like a bunch of portraits, to like it's StarCraft 3. Which no, it's not StarCraft 3, guys. Please.
Yeah, right. That makes me think, because I see this phrase a lot. If or when, frankly, a lot of times it's when StarCraft 3 happens, ... something lore. It's always story related. Oh, it's got the UED's gonna come back. It's always somebody who's like, I wrote this fan fiction, and that's gonna be StarCraft 3.
Why did you call me out like that? No.
Well, but it's just. I think it's about tempering our expectations. Like, I've had a life of StarCraft at this point. I played StarCraft Brood War forever. Played StarCraft 2 forever. Obviously, I make a lot of videos for these. I love these games, but I also recognize that sometimes it's good to be happy with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, and like, as the one who's going through the lore drought with like tiny comics every year.
Yeah.
You just gotta appreciate like that there is even anything. Like, I remember when I was growing up with Brood War, like, I was still a big lore fan, and you get a book like once every maybe like 4 years. There were pretty big dead zones.
Yeah.
So the fact there's like I think people have been kind of spoiled for choice lately in terms of what is real. It's a decade-old game. Like, I'm trying to think what else even came out in 2009, like Mass Effect 2, I think.
Well, StarCraft, like the original StarCraft, is very unique in the sense that I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Is that just me?
That might be me.
StarCraft is super unique in the sense that, like, I look back to like 1999, and it's crazy to think the communities. I mean, you're a perfect example of people who like really got enraptured by the lore of StarCraft. And like, how many other games came out that just they were a game, people played it, and then they were like lost to time. And somehow StarCraft, like, it's partly because it was an esport. It's a lot of factors, right? It's not like it's like not a perfect masterpiece or anything, but I do think that the framework of the game, the gameplay, the visuals, just from the original StarCraft, and then the story, which did borrow a lot from 40K and from the movie Aliens, but it just like it triggered, I think, a lot of younger folks to creatively think about these fictional universes when otherwise they didn't. And it's crazy to think a video game did that.
Certainly, yeah. And I think it was largely the time, like, Blizzard, like, people get crap on Blizzard storytelling, but it's a nice mix of accessibility and depth.
Yes.
It's certainly, like, nothing huge, like, nothing groundbreaking. But it is a very deep, like, in terms of what they've... Like, I can make a living just talking about, like, the food stuff of Terrans and the Cthulhu stuff. But I could make an essay on that. It's like they put a lot of thought into it, in spite of it not being a particularly like amazingly creative universe. But I think in general, Blizzard's been always good at that, making a fun universe, if not the most creative.
Well, I do think it's creative. I mean, to say something like wasn't optimally written in the way that you look at it retroactively does not mean that it wasn't creative. I mean, because it's more than just the writing. It's very much the visuals and the sound design, and I think that all kind of came together. And only Blizzard franchises from like the 90s captured audiences in that way. And I think we forget that. We look back and be like, oh, StarCraft wasn't that good. You know, it had a lot of flaws, but it's like we're saying that 20 years later. It's easy to say that, but like it's a testament in and of itself that we are talking about it in 2020 at all to how successful it was, even if you don't think it actually was. Even if your point was, oh, it wasn't that good, the fact that you're talking about it at all right now is like a huge testament to how much it enraptured you as a child. I don't know. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, the fact there still is these communities, like fairly large communities, that still discuss it after all these years. And I think creativity's like there's been a weird trend of like if it's not novel, it's a cheap ripoff. Like there's something to be said of doing like not necessarily the most like new ideas, but like base ideas super well and telling a good story with them.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be the new dude.
Right. Right. Agreed.
I think also, a lot of people look back on, it could have been better, like going back to old, like the super old Star. And I'm sure it could. Like, definitely plot holes and problems. But I don't know. Like you were saying, it's a fun universe. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look at it detached from even being involved in it myself, and my detached self is basically looking and saying just the fact that there's such buzz around it even today is what it speaks for itself. Like regardless of what people want to say about it, I'm trying to think of other franchises that did that. You know, like Warhammer 40K obviously did, and maybe the creative minds behind Blizzard basically saw that and said, hey, let's just remake that because people love it in terms of following the story, and it'll be timeless, and people will love it for decades. And it worked.
I will say, and I bring this up a few times because it does get a little overblown. StarCraft was not a 40K game, guys. I see that posted so many times.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't. No, I think it clearly was informed by 40K in many ways.
So, yeah, it gets there's a lot of it was them taking from the same source material too. Because if you look at 40K at the time, like you see people go like, "Oh, look at the Tyranids; they're all just the Zerg," and it's like, "Oh, actually, the Tyranids at the time were like humanoid looking."
Yeah.
So, but even Sam Wise, one of the artists, and it's like the Terran armor definitely took some inspiration from 40K Space Marine.
Oh yeah.
And there was some like base stuff, but. Like there was a big thing they admitted where everyone had to watch Starship Troopers when they were making the game. Like that was a mandated thing for everyone.
Yeah,
and that really shows in some of the cinematics.
Well, and I think that's why it was so exciting, because when I was that age, I loved Starship Troopers, I loved Aliens, and I loved Warhammer 40K. So like, oh well, there's this game, and it kind of combines all of them. Like almost almost too much, right? To the point where it's too obvious. But regardless, and Star Wars, and this was like sci-fi fantasy. You know, you've got a bug race that devours things. You've got like a Hicks in space Terran faction, and then you've got like this magical alien race that's super powerful but also super stupid.
Yeah, I mean, and I think also what carried it too was like with all the marketing material, even for esports, you'll see Jim Raynor, Kerrigan, Tassadar.
Yeah.
Like, the characters I think that they told in this setting were probably bigger than the setting itself in terms of like what people remember. Like you can show anyone a picture of Kerrigan. Well, probably not anyone. Anyone who's even remotely into gaming, they'll probably know where it's from. Like it's got that Mario appeal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think really there's just something fundamental. They just did something fundamentally right, whether they realized it at the time or not. But it was like lightning in a bottle that it just really came together. Again, whether accidental or not, I don't think. I think a lot of it they realized they were really pushing. You know, they took Warcraft 2 and then they iterated upon it in a massive way.
Well, with the history of it, they iterated and made it in the same engine, and it got so poorly received they had to scrap it and completely redo it.
I've seen those. Yeah, they like the pre-alpha screenshots. Yeah,
the purple Warcraft 2.
Yeah,
it's fun to look at. I've had a few friends that have tried to remake models in StarCraft 2.
Yep,
they've been funny to look at.
Yep. I guess in the grand scheme, like we're a week away from the 10-year patch, not even the patch, just the anniversary, regardless of what they're going to do with the patch. And I guess this is like, it's sort of my verbal love letter to StarCraft, in the sense like being involved in a StarCraft community, it makes me always feel like I need to qualify. Anytime I say I like StarCraft, you have to qualify with, I understand it's not the best, or I understand people don't like it, or I understand blah, 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 blah. But like, look, when it comes down to it, I've played StarCraft 1 and 2 since I was like 12, for like every year of my life. And I think it deserves recognition for informing a lot of my creativity in that way, and I enjoy the franchise, and again, I recognize it's flawed in many ways, but I wouldn't still be playing it if I didn't like it. And of all the games I'm still playing on my channel, StarCraft 2 is probably still my favorite. I'm starting to branch away from a lot of my other typical series, but StarCraft 2 is always going to be there, because it is definitely my favorite still.
Well, I'm on the StarCraft lore ship forever. I'm going down with it. No, I've got Brood War when I was 8, so I've been with this for a while. I've seen all the books come out, and it's like I was saying, like it's a fun universe, and I wouldn't like. I don't even want to say like renowned. I wouldn't have gotten like my place where I am now if there wasn't something deep to talk about. Like, if it wasn't as thought out as it was. So there's a lot of fun to be had with it. So I still think it's a great setting. Usually when I talk about StarCraft, I qualify with, oh no, not the esports side, the other side. But yeah, no, I definitely mirror what you said. It's like, yeah, it's a fun game. Like, it's a fun world. The gameplay's fun, and we're still playing it and talking about it, and you all are still watching it. So.
Exactly. Well, I have a question for you. So along the lines of, like, from a lore perspective, obviously you are interested in pretty much cataloging every nook and cranny. But I wonder if maybe because there were dry spells of lore, you know, like infrequent book releases, there isn't that much of an expanded universe. Do you think maybe that is actually what... Okay, so this is my hypothesis. I don't want to, like, ask a leading question, but my hypothesis is perhaps that's what maybe keeps people as engaged as they continue to be, because it allows them to have discussions without every single thing set in stone. You can kind of imagine, like, oh, what's going on with the Mutation Protectorate, as opposed to it being directly spelled out for you every step of the way.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually had this ramble before in terms of expanded universes, because it was a complaint I've levied against Overwatch a lot. I do think having, like, a depth of, like, sources and a depth people can go into in terms of, like, oh, comics or books, find out about this, you can look at this, there's, like, fun angles you can go. I mean, heck, like, a bunch of the characters I'm looking at the co-op menu, like, Matt Horner was from a book, Valerian's not. Valerian was from books. Like, there's a lot they can then pull from, and there's a lot of, like, oh, like, it's this character, but you won't be missing anything if you didn't know that Matt Horner was from Queen of Blade.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, like, a fun there that just keeps it discussing. And it was like, I complained about this with Overwatch because how many years it's been out, and there's just, like, there's a lot written, but not a lot you can really sink your teeth into in terms of, like, oh, this is a fun book or short story I can go back and reference. I don't know.
Yeah. Agreed. I think that's the neat part, though, is, like, there are gaps, maybe deliberate, maybe, you know, they just never were able to get into it as much as they wanted, and so you kind of go down a rabbit hole, but then you get to a point where then, you know, someone like you would come and be like, oh, well, you've jumped to this point, and that's actually in one of the comics, and then it kind of, you start connecting the dots. I think that's what builds, like, that engagement on the lore side of things.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The fact that you can then point people, and that's kind of the thrill I get, is when people have questions of, like, oh, how can I figure out about, like, what happened to, like, I don't know, the Kelmorian Combine, and then I say there's nothing on them, go away. No, yeah, but yeah, it's fun to point people to sources and actually see them get excited about it. Like, oh, I can actually, like, know what happened in Protoss history.
Yep.
And the fact that's there for people to engage if they want to, but... And Blizzard, I think, more than anyone, and I point to really Warcraft's doing, kind of messing this up in some cases. You don't have to read any of it to understand the games.
Yep,
So
agreed.
It's just StarCraft did a good balancing act of that, but it's there if you want to know it.
For sure. Well, that was a nice little afterthought, I suppose. I mean, I really wanted to take the time to say that, like, I do still really like this game, just especially because, again, we're coming on 10 years, which is crazy to think about. So I'm glad that there's a nice community of us still out there.
I hate it. I quit.
The wiki is being destroyed.
I'm just deleting the wiki.
I have a kill switch. If I die, the whole wiki goes.
You'll all be lost without now.
How will I learn about StarCraft Insurrection?
That's the good feeling. How most... Like, I now host the main archive for that game, so I've gave many people the experience of Jack Frost.
That's something you have to live with. Knowing that.
Oh well. Well, if you want to play Insurrection, it's now easily accessible. I don't recommend it.
And I think Aztec New Media is defunct, so, like, no one's coming after you for hosting their game that was sold.
My friend Togatic actually, like, dug deep to find they are still a functioning company, and they're now in real estate, but the company is still there.
What? Oh, is he the one that interviewed them?
He interviewed them. Yep. He hunted them down, and it found out that it was made parallel to StarCraft 1, and that, like, it's largely the reason that it's simultaneously so close, but has a few tiny issues, because they just kept, like, ping-ponging back and forth as Blizzard kept writing StarCraft 1, basically.
Huh.
So it's got a pretty interesting history. Sadly, no one's been able to find out the guys who made Retribution, because those have some big questions I want to answer.
Maybe that one's better lost to time.
Probably. Yeah.
Insurrection, at least, Insurrection has a charm to it, whereas Retribution, I feel like, is very, very bland.
It is. I was actually literally just talking about this with someone. Insurrection's like a fun B movie. Unfortunately, a fun B movie with like broken triggering, but
Yeah,
it's still fun.
Turrets on fucking islands.
Yeah. Whereas, well, no, that was Retribution that had like an infinite number of hunt down the last missile turret maps.
Yeah.
And I like a little bit of like the whole Command and Conquer style of like it's a single campaign you run through. It's not like universe shattering every mission, but it just was pretty boring.
Yeah. Just not every mission needs to be clear every single unit.
I think there was only like 2 micro maps in that whole thing. I'm trying to remember. Not actually, well, 2.5, I'd say. It was. I do a yearly playthrough every year of like all the lore sources, and I just started skipping those games because I'm like, it's not worth it.
What about Stellar Forces? Don't tell me you skip Stellar Forces.
The grand story of Stellar Forces. I have literally, as an 8-year-old, I made better maps, and that's not an hyperbole. Oh god, it's so bad.
And
I also host that if you want to play it.
Yeah, I don't. Just don't. Anybody listening, don't.
Don't.
I think I streamed it. There's a video I have on my channel somewhere. You just search Jay Barrino Stellar Forces, and you can watch me play some of them. They are horrible.
My favorite part was at the end of the video, you were like, oh, like, comment if you all, like, want to see more of this. And then all the comments were, please no.
Yeah, exactly. Usually people are like, haha, this was so, like, Insurrection, people are like, this is so stupid, I would love to see more of it. Whereas Stellar Forces, people are like, just stop. It's awful.
Just no. It's, just flat maps with no textures and a few things. Like, step on a beacon, your army's invincible. It's like, I could do this with just a cheat code.
Yeah, they weren't really scenarios at all, were they? They were just strange. I can't even describe them. They were basically unfinished.
They had like intros, and I don't know the history of like who made. Well, I know vaguely the history of who made it, but like it's broken English. The fun history, and I actually hunted down a physical copy of it because of it. Is that it was the first like Blizzard had saw that it came out and sued them and demanded every copy be destroyed. Because just out of like spite, and they stopped doing third-party expansions after that. Because for Warcraft 2 and Diablo, they had done a few third-party like authorized insurrection kind of. But that was like the point when they were like, "No, we're done."
I like how it wasn't just to remove them from the shelves, but they had to destroy them.
It was very explicitly destroy all copies. So when I found one on eBay, I'm like, "Well, grabbing that."
That's fantastic.
I collect a lot of StarCraft stuff, and so getting physical copies of those really shitty campaigns was always fun.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier before we started recording. Is I was pointing out how I think it's nice to see people who, because like, well, okay, let me start from the top. We were sort of sad about how people get really hyper-focused negatively on StarCraft as an example, but it could be any game, movie, piece of media, anything that's meant to be entertainment. Some people get very hyper-focused and obsessed with it in like a negative sense. And it's very sad. Like, I feel sort of bad for them because I wish that they could find something that they could put their energy into that would provide them something positive in return. But on top of that, like, I think you are an excellent example of someone who has a positive relationship with a piece of media that has nothing to do with what other people think about it, and then, you know, you can feed emotion into and take emotion out of it in a positive way. And I think just the fact that, you know, StarCraft is able to provide that for many people. Obviously, it provides it negatively for people as well, and I just hope those people can find a better outlet.
It does. I don't, and for anything, like, and we were talking about this earlier, like, you don't need to be, when you're that negative, it's not healthy for you to be that negative in your general day-to-day, like, and also it's just like, you don't really make anything constructive with it. It's kind of a waste of time, to be honest, being constantly that negative. Whereas at least positive stuff, you can help, like, build a community, like, make stuff for it, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I think I just wanted to distinguish. I see a big difference between, again, sort of like a hyper focus. I think a lot of people always assume is inherently negative, but I think, well, you and I are both good examples of taking some piece of media and actually, you know, creating something positive from it for ourselves.
Yeah,
and in many cases other people as well, as an externality to that. But yeah, it makes me sad. Like and I'm not trying to be condescending. Like I genuinely, I want the mental health of the gaming communities that are tangential to myself to be more positive places, and I think we could do that by, shifting people away from things they just fucking hate but can't get away from onto something else.
Hey guys, comment your opinions on the StarCraft 2 epilogue in the comments.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. I'll argue with you. I didn't hate it. There.
Yeah, I mean and that's what I was saying earlier. Is I always feel like you've got to add a qualifier, like, oh, I know that a lot of people don't like the StarCraft 2 epilogue, and therefore I feel like bad saying that I didn't mind it. Like I didn't love it, but I you go and you read the reactions and people are like, how dare they?
A betrayal. The funny, like I guess I also had lower expectations going in. I don't want to get too deep into this because it actually will probably start a flame war in the comments. But I actually had a few pleasant surprises. I'll put it that way about it. They exceeded some of my expectations.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is the burden of potential. I know, like, I enjoy talking about, like, oh, it would have been cooler if they would have done this, or it would have been better if they would have done this. But, like, I don't feel a sense of outrage that they didn't. I just, you have that little sense of disappointment that, you can see what could have been and it's not there. But, like, at the end of the day, who fucking cares? Like,
it's the problem. And I was saying this to you before we started. I just don't engage with a lot of, like, I hated this part. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say you shouldn't, but
yeah, it's like I could defend it, and then I just sound kind of like an asshole, or I could like agree with you. I don't know. It's just I like talking about like potentials from that, like what it could mean, but not like I hate this and it's bad.
Yeah. Well, because it brings an implication that it's like affecting you at an emotional level that it shouldn't be, right?
And to stress, I don't even disagree with a lot of people who end up saying like this thing's bad. Like a lot of things are like they're just the truth. Like, but it's a discussion that's just it's an inevitability, especially on the BattleNet forums. That just comes up, and I'm just like I'm sick of that topic. Yeah.
Well, it leads into a wider discussion as a whole about fandoms and certain levels of toxicity and again just like that level of hate that at a certain point I don't know, I feel like there's a threshold. It's hard for me to articulate it, but I feel like I have a threshold in my brain. I know where it is. It's very hard for me to describe, but like I just automatically cannot get beyond a certain level of giving a shit about certain things. And like video game stories, and again, this is at a negative level. On the other hand, on a positive level, the sky's the limit. That's great. But like at a negative level, there's a certain point I'm like, this is stupid. I can't waste my mental energy on this anymore.
Yeah, don't let it like keep you up at night. It's like it's not worth it. There's a real life like you have to consider. And obviously let it like games will stories in general mentally like touch you mentally in good or bad ways, but I don't know. I see and really like we shit on StarCraft a lot and for having a lot of negative in the community, but really I consider it pretty good.
I agree.
Like I point a random example, Star Wars, the toxicity that ends up there, and I guess it's because it's a lot bigger community. Like you just see a lot of what happens when that's on a large scale.
Yeah,
you can actually like really affect people with it.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I've been very focused on like bringing up the negativity in the community, but it's absolutely true. Like even my like YouTube comments, where many people say YouTube comments are always the worst of the online diaspora, but like my comments are great, my community's great, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the game community in general. Like even if you think it's bad, if you went to another game community, it's so much worse in many other places.
Yeah, there's something to be said about kind of the smaller communities, and like StarCraft isn't like a tiny community. It's it's certainly probably one of the smaller ones for Blizzard outside of esports, but it's not tiny. But it's not like, I don't know, Star Wars is a good example, Star Trek, Bethesda games, that kind of stuff, where there's a huge community, and it can get a little wild.
Well, Warcraft 3 is a good example of a community that was relatively stable that just imploded.
Oh yeah,
Which I understand what happened, but wowee, I left pretty much every Warcraft 3 community I was in, and I'm only just now starting to rejoin them.
I was, and I certainly was disappointed with it. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I still post your video because yours is the best clip of all the Groms taking out to hell screen for some reason. But yeah, certainly you have the right to be disappointed and the right to voice your complaints, because that shouldn't have. Like, Blizzard should definitely know that was a bad idea. There's a, like you were saying, don't let it affect you deeply.
Yeah, and I don't want to strawman people, because the typical response is, if you disagree with me when I say something is bad, then you're a Blizzard fanboy. That's always what it is. Oh, blind Blizzard fanboys, they're always going to defend Blizzard. Like, it's not about that. Like, it's more of like, I'm trying to engage on a personal level with someone who seems very wrapped up in something that I feel like, hey, for your own sake, you need to disconnect from this. And it's very hard to have that conversation, because then it turns into, well, you're just a toxic person, and you're just a Blizzard fanboy, and then it just devolves from there. And I just, I can even see, if anyone was so inclined to do so and get involved in the comments here, I can see, I didn't like the epilogue because of this. And I'm not saying you shouldn't say that. I think it just, there's an elementary social boundary that I feel like gets crossed a little too much, where people, verge into hyperbole, where it seems very clear that they're very deeply hurt, and I feel bad for those people.
Yeah, I think, because, and you see it a lot too. People pay attention to the more vocal anger.
Right.
Oh God, I'm just gonna keep bringing up anthills to kick. I think The Last Jedi was the best example of this, where there were so many utterly just insane responses.
Right.
And love it or hate it, it's
The Last Jedi was strange, because I feel like it was basically pulled into, and I think this was very purposeful, done by bad actors, pulled into the political sphere.
Yes, I think that didn't help a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and epilogue being another example of that, where yeah.
Well, it's something where the epilogue was, I think the epilogue definitely was not what people expected, first and foremost. So that made it kind of low-hanging fruit. And again, I'm not defending it per se. All I'm saying is I understand where the response came from, and I still think it's kind of crazy.
Definitely, yeah. Oh well, but I guess at the end of the day, just enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah. I was talking about it a little bit on stream last weekend. I guess this is just an overall conversation about my feelings on gaming communities and really just online communities in general. So I don't know, it's such a big topic, I don't want to get into it. But the point is, I want to do my best to not artificially create positivity, but basically try to avoid setting up a reward system for negativity, if that makes sense, in any community that I'm involved in, especially the one that I'm running.
Yeah, and I think you even mentioned this, you get attention when you're super negative a lot of the times, because you get engaged. So
yep, yeah,
you don't want to deal with that.
The classic "don't feed the trolls," but the meaning of that is a lot deeper than I think people assume, which is, it's simply, you don't feed the trolls not because you don't want to give them the satisfaction per se, but what you're doing is you're incentivizing other people like them to say, oh, again, there's a reward system, people will respond to me if I make this type of comment. So you're going to get more of that from other people, you're not just rewarding that one guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like negative opinions are definitely different from outright trolling, because trolling is just for attention.
Right.
There's definitely people who do that. And honestly, with your videos, less so. I feel like a lot of negativity. I don't know how to say it's not sound bad. There's a lot of genuine I don't feel like anyone's not being genuine when they say positive or negative things under your videos.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean is when I say not setting up a reward system around negativity, if someone tells me that I played bad but doesn't explain why, and they're just they leave a mad comment, then I just don't respond to them. Whereas if someone says, hey, you messed up because you could have done this, then maybe I'll respond to that person because it's not negative, even though it's critical of me.
Well, you don't want to make Jay's Great Echo Chamber.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fine line to tread, but I guess the point is like everybody has a hand in making the communities they're in a little bit better, and it comes back all the way back to StarCraft. If you want to focus on StarCraft, like you specifically have been a really, really positive force in the StarCraft community, and I think everybody can take you as an example for like. Again, you don't have to say the game is 100% great 100% of the time and be, straw man Blizzard fanboy. It's more just, you take positivity from the game. That's why you're involved in it, and that's just a really good self-perpetuating system.
Oh yeah, and I will be vocal about parts I think are stupid. Shadow of the Xel'Naga is the worst book Blizzard's ever put out.
You hear that, Outsider XZ?
Hey, your campaign was great. I don't know how you did it. I genuinely don't know how you managed to wring positivity out of that book. But anyway, I appreciate that, though. That means a lot. I try to do a little bit just give back a little bit and not just rant about lore.
Well, this was a nice chat. Everyone probably thinks it took us 3 tries to beat the mutation.
For all those who skip to the end, it's this hard.
Cool. Well, I guess I'll see you next week, and it'll be the 10-year mutation.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have some cool stuff to talk about then. I'm hoping. We'll see.
We will see. All right, well, we'll see you all then.
See ya.